Bom dia, welcome back. Well, one of the things that many of my viewers are most curious about and have questions about is acquiring a place to live, renting an apartment here in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. And some wanted an apartment tour of my apartment, so that's what we're going to do today, take a look at my apartment. And of course, we'll talk about how much I pay for it, the monthly rent, and how I went about finding it. So I live on the second floor. Well, second floor would be called the United States. Here it's called the first floor. But the second floor of a older building, probably built in the 1960s, I'm guessing. Walk up one flight of stairs and come to my front door. And let's walk in. And we walk in, and there's a little entranceway here, and we come into the living room. Here to the left, when we first walk in, is the kitchen, but we'll go in there in a minute. Here's the living room. And it's also the room that I sleep in. Now, that's not going to be forever. I'm guessing the next 6 months, while my brother-in-law, Eliamar, is living here, sharing this apartment with me, and then when he gets his own place, I'll have this to myself. And I let him have the bedroom. I sleep here on a single bed / couch. That's an old Catholic altar that I bought in a shop, vintage, but instead of Catholic saints, I've put in Candomblé Orishas. Always have the fan running. That's what they called there against the wall. It's called a hockey, which is rack, R-A-C-K, but they pronounce it hockey, and that's where you mount your TV. And got pictures and decorations in there. That's the door to the, whatever you want to call it, the patio, the little outdoor area. We'll look at that in a second. There I have a small table and chairs. On the occasion, people want to sit down and eat. I just generally sit on my bed and eat. But Eliamar prefers to sit at the table. And of course I have to have my bookcase because I'm a big reader. And so this is the main room. When you first walk in is the living room. And then off the living room is another very important space in the apartment for me, which is I'm going to call it the patio. Outdoors. Where I'm a big plant person, so I've got all of these plants out here. And but of course, when my Brazilian friends walk in there, they say, "What are all these plants? Why don't you have a churrasco out here, a barbecue?" So I think that's what Brazilians would have, would be a barbecue, and they'd be out here barbecuing on the weekends and playing music. But I am very much about plants. And that's what I use this space for. Now, it does not look out onto the street. You have to look way, 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 way up to see the sky because it's surrounded by buildings. Some people might not like that, but I like it because you do get fresh air. I'm experiencing feeling the fresh air, the breeze. Does get sun around between like 11 and 12:30. It rains, and it rains on the plants. But the best thing about it, it's very quiet back here, and you don't hear any very little street noise. So that's how I use this patio, is for my plants. It's like a nursery or a greenhouse. So we come back out into the living room, and let's go. Then we'll take right here, there's the front door, and go into the kitchen. And here's my kitchen. It's all tiled. There's a big refrigerator, a sink, microwave, stove, window onto the back area, which I'll show you in a minute. Got to have your bottled water because you can't drink the water here out of the tap. There's a little copper thing that I bought in Mexico. It says "Mi casa es su casa" or "Mi casa es tu casa," and it's in Spanish. But I brought it from Mexico via San Francisco, California. So here's the kitchen. It's a nice size, and then we walk out. I don't know what you call this back area. I would call it maybe the utility area. Here is a place to do laundry. There's these racks that you lower down from the ceiling to dry your clothes. There's a sink that can be used for washing clothes. I do not have a washing machine yet. I may get one, but there are lots and lots of coin-operated automatic. No, they're not coin-operated. You use your credit card or your ATM. No coins, but they're self-service. That's what I want to say. Self-service laundromats within a block or two. There's lots of them, so I just use that. It's just a lot easier. But I may get a washing machine. Of course, dryer is not necessary here. You put things out, and in an hour everything's dry, and just have junk stored back here. But you can put anything you want back here. Again, there's the sky. You can't look out on the street again back here, but you do get fresh air. You do feel the rain. You feel the wind, and I like that again because it's quiet. I'm right in the middle of the big bustling city of Salvador, but I rarely, I should say not never, but rarely hear much noise except at Carnival. then you hear Carnival, but it's muted. And then back here is a bathroom. It's the second bathroom. I haven't shown you the first bathroom yet, but there is a bathroom, although I've got it filled with junk. Oh, and there's a shower too. It's only cold water though, but there is a shower there is a bathroom back here with a shower and a toilet. Use it when somebody else is using the regular bathroom. Come back out into the kitchen, and then we'll walk back into the living room that we just saw. Then we come into this hallway right here. Turn the light on. And we come to the main bathroom here. Good sized bathroom, normal sink, vanity, toilet, shower, hot water in this shower. I cannot take cold showers. I don't care how hot it is outside. I want a hot shower, especially in the morning, to wake up. Again, it's all tiled. There I am. Bahia. And there's a bathroom. So there's this main bathroom and that second smaller bathroom that I showed you off the kitchen. And then we come into the bedroom, which is a little bit messy right now, as you can see, because Eliamar and his wife Tanya is visiting, and so she brought a lot of stuff. And Eliamar is not into decorating his room, or my room, but his room at the moment. But anyway, it's a good size. It's got a big, I think this is a queen size bed. And the window looks out onto my outdoor garden patio area. So you wake up and you see a lot of greenery. Kitty's out there, kitty cat's out there somewhere. She likes to hide in the plants. And there, you can't see the sky if you look way up. And so this is the bedroom. There is, Brazilian apartments generally do not have closets, but so you always got to get an armoire. So when I rented this apartment, it was completely empty. Not even a stove and a refrigerator like you would get in a U.S. apartment when you rent an apartment. It was absolutely empty, and I had to start from scratch as far as furnishings, kitchen appliances. So that is a cost, unless you get in a furnished place, of course. But if you're renting a longer term apartment, they generally come totally unfurnished, and you're going to have the initial expense of filling it up with everything you need, which is why I've been broke the last 2 or 3 months, but I'm getting that under control. As I've talked about in previous episodes, I'll be debt-free by February. Now, how much do I pay for this apartment? Well, the monthly rent, I'm going to give it to you in US dollars, but of course I pay in Brazilian reais. But I pay the equivalent of $365 a month for this apartment. $365 a month, and this is a very coveted, upscale neighborhood. I'm just 2 blocks from the beach. I'm in one of the best parts of town. There are tons of stores and shops and grocery stores and great restaurants and bars and concerts and music venues and nightclubs and everything else you can imagine in the neighborhood. And all that for $365 a month. Now, I don't know where you live, but in where I come from, San Francisco, California, you wouldn't even get a cardboard box on the sidewalk for $365 a month. Maybe you might get a parking space in a garage. Even in a small town in the deep south of the United States, I don't think you can rent an apartment like this for $365. And elsewhere in the city, you can find apartments for much less than this. In other parts of Brazil too. Now, in that small city I lived in, Santa de Jesus, about 4 hours from here in the state of Bahia, I paid, what was it, $185 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. This is a 1-bedroom apartment. I pay for a 2-bedroom apartment, 2 bathrooms, in a closed condominium with an Olympic-sized swimming pool and a gym. I paid $185. So compared to that, this apartment for $365, oh, that's a fortune. No, it's not. It's extremely affordable. So this is my Salvador apartment, and I love it. And I'm not going to show you the front of the building. Keep a little bit of privacy there about that. But believe me, it's on a very nice, I love the street too. I love the street that I live on. It's very friendly. It's like a small community. It's a great neighborhood. Bahia. The neighborhood is called Bahia. And I love this apartment. I can see myself living here for a long, long, long time. So, there is my apartment, and this is where I live, for those of you who were interested. So, how did I find this apartment? Well, I found it very, very easily. When you're walking around Salvador, the city, you're always going to see in windows of buildings apartment for rent signs, se alquila. And there's usually a telephone number, and you just contact, you call the number and inquire. Now you can also use a real estate agent, a rental agent. You can go online, and there are websites similar to what we have in the United States, Craigslist. There are a variety of ways, but the way I've always found it, just walking around town and looking for signs in the window, and it's always worked for me. Now, my brother-in-law helps me because, of course, I'm a gringo, and so to avoid being, a dollar sign appearing in the eyes of the owner of the apartment, I let him do all of the talking and the negotiating, so that I get a rent that is a Brazilian rent, and not a gringo rent. Now, if you can, try to make a good friend, a trustworthy friend who will help you rent an apartment. If you can't, well, you can do it yourself. I don't want to suggest that everybody's out to rip you off. They're not. I've never been ripped off. I've always got great prices. So my tip is walk around in the neighborhood that you're interested in and look up into the buildings, into the windows on the doors, and look for that se alquila, for rent sign. and call the number. Then of course there's always Airbnb. But you know, for me, in my opinion, Airbnb is fine for short-term rentals. A few weeks, maybe if you're just here for a few months. But you know, if you're here, if you're moving here, going to be here for a longer time, Airbnb tends to be kind of expensive. So, you know, I don't recommend Airbnb for apartment hunting. Renting an apartment, a regular, not short-term, but if you're renting a long-term apartment where you're really going to live and settle, then they're always going to ask you to sign a lease, sign a contract. When I moved in here in August, I signed a 1-year lease. And when that lease ends in this coming August, I'll get a 3-year lease. Amazingly, I did not have to pay a deposit. I mean, it's usual that you do have to pay like a month's deposit, but I didn't have to. It was quite nice. And this is the second time I rented an apartment here in Salvador. I actually had my last apartment in Salvador was right across the street, on this very same street. And again, I did not have to pay a deposit. So if you're lucky, that'll be the case for you too. Now, normally it's easy to find an apartment, except perhaps in the months of January and February, because you're coming upon Carnival, and it's early January right now, and you can feel the energy in the streets. The city's filling up. You know, Salvador has the biggest street party. It's called the biggest street party in the world, Guinness World Records. Carnival in Salvador. Over 1 million people come into the city, and they want to rent short-term accommodations. And so people will put their apartments up for a week or two. They'll move in with a friend or a relative, and they'll earn enough money to survive for the rest of the year. So January and February can be a little more difficult and more expensive to rent an apartment, but not in the entire city of Salvador. It's in areas like where I am here in Bahia that are along the Carnival route. Now, if you were going to go into another neighborhood that's not near the Carnival routes, not as desirable, but you wouldn't have that much of a difficulty even at Carnival time. So just remember that if you're coming at the height of the summer season, it might be a little bit more difficult, but it's still possible. Better to start looking in between the months of March and December. Okay, there you go. You got to look at my apartment, an idea about how much rent I pay, and the tricks for finding an apartment in Salvador. As I said, it's not difficult at all. So thanks for joining me, and as always, beijo, ciao.